Greetings, Earthlings. My name is Crypto Noah, and today we're here to talk about Ethereum and its transition to ETH 2.0, and if it's most likely going to cause a pump or if it's most likely going to cause a dump. Just kidding. So let's get right into it. So for those of you who don't know, Ethereum is a layer 1 blockchain for decentralized applications to be built on top of. Well, if Bitcoin is digital gold, Ethereum is digital oil, as it is the enabler of work. And why is it compared to digital oil? Because just like oil powers our cars, it helps roads to be built. We use it in our hair, engines, pretty much everything. Ethereum is kind of like oil within crypto. It's powering stablecoin transactions, NFTs, and DeFi, and it has the most developers and the most applications and protocols built on top of it. So now let's talk about ETH 2.0. So right now, Ethereum has the same consensus mechanism that Bitcoin does, which is proof of work. And proof of work, without getting too technical, just allows you to secure the network through computing power. So basically, if you just picture like 30 random characters on a wall, it's like a lottery system. Whoever guesses that gets to add the next block to the chain, and how you guess it is through computing power. So your mining rigs are trying to guess random numbers until it gets it correctly. Obviously, the more computing power you have, the higher chances you are of guessing it, because your computer can guess it faster. And that's proof of work. So proof of stake is, instead of you having to use your computer and use processing power, you're actually using your stake of Ethereum. So you take your Ethereum, you stake it on what's called the beacon chain, and that's how you randomly get selected on who adds the next block to the chain. Just to keep it simple. So why is Ethereum moving to ETH 2.0? They've been trying to move to ETH 2.0 for like years, and it's supposed to be dated for September. It's the first time we've had an official date, but I wouldn't be surprised if it got pushed back. But the reason why they're doing it is because it's greener. Proof of work is using up a lot of energy and it's bad for the environment, even though we waste way more energy on video games, Christmas lights, and mining gold, but that's a whole nother video. And also, it's supposed to make ETH more decentralized, and what everyone's getting all riled up about is supposed to make Ethereum a deflationary asset. Why is that important? The price of Ethereum is determined by supply and demand. Supply and demand says that for any market to see all-time highs, or just to see a price increase in general, two things have to happen no matter what. There has to be an increasing demand, aka a new pool of buyers coming into the market, because historic buyers isn't going to push prices to all-time highs. And then you have to have a supply that can't meet that demand. So you have to have demand and you have to have a shortage of supply. And then at that point you have more people bidding on less goods, which has to lead to prices going up. Let's talk about how ETH 2.0 is going to make ETH deflationary. Let's hop over to ultrasound.money. This is showing Ethereum ever since we had the London hard fork. Before EIP 1559, when you paid for gas fees, you just had to bid in order to get your transaction pushed through. So it's like, if you think of a blockchain as like a choo-choo train, like an actual train. If it's no one at the station, you'll be able to get on the train, no problem, and get to your destination. But if it's full, you're competing to get inside that train. Just like on a blockchain, you're competing to get inside each block, because that's how your transaction gets processed. Whether if it's a derivatives exchange, a borrowing and lending platform, NFT transaction, whatever it is, in order for that transaction to go through on Ethereum, you have to be included in a block. And right now, that's another thing about ETH 2.0. It's supposed to make Ethereum more scalable. Right now, Ethereum can only handle 14 transactions per second. And just to give you an idea, Visa can handle like 60,000 transactions per second. So when they implemented the London hard fork, it algorithmically set the gas fees as low as possible. So like, let's say I wanted to do an exchange on Uniswap, and gas fees are through the roof because everyone's just using Ethereum. Well, I'm going to have to pay a higher gas fee because you have more people bidding. But also, if I want to get my transaction higher, I'm going to bid higher. So you have everyone bidding higher and higher and higher, but no one knows where the actual floor is. So you have people bidding high for no reasons, and the miners are happy because they're getting these transaction fees. So EIP 1559 made it so that the gas fees are set algorithmically as low as possible. And then they also made it so that instead of that fee going to the miners, it's actually getting burned. And that is a big reason why Ethereum is at the price that it is today. If this didn't happen, And we had this big correction when, you know, Bitcoin went from 60K all the way down to like 17. We'd probably be looking at $200, $300, $400, $500 Ethereum if it wasn't for EIP 1559. How do I know it? Let's go back over to ultrasound.money. So ever since EIP 1559, 2.5 billion ETH has been burned forever. That's Ethereum that miners or individuals can't sell on the market. And remember what I said about supply and demand. You have to have an increase in demand and a supply that can't meet that demand. So if we look over here, it's burning approximately 4.9 ETH per minute. And it shows here all the transactions and everything like that. So this mixed with ETH 2.0 is what is going to make Ethereum a deflationary asset. How? Okay, let's look at this. We already went over the amount of ETH being burned. This is the inflation schedule, the supply growth. So per year, we have a 2.4% inflation increase. The issuance right now is around 5.5 million ETH annually, okay? So this button here that says simulate merge, this is making a guess as to the supply growth and the issuance after ETH 2.0 becomes a thing, okay? So let's click this. So instead of it being a 2.4% increase on the supply growth, it's actually going to make it so that it's a negative 1.6% supply growth. So it's taking ETH off the market. And instead of us having $5.5 million in new ETH coming onto the market, we're going to have just 600,000 ETH coming onto the market. So at that point, ETH is going to become deflationary because you're going to have more ETH being burned than you have new ETH coming onto the market. And this is obviously dependent upon how much Ethereum is being used. So I think it's safe to say that if Ethereum becomes, if the transactions per second drop, and this isn't going to happen right after we go to proof of stake. Like you have the merge, the verge, the purge, the splurge. So like I said, this is all dependent upon network usage. So why do I think network usage for ETH is going to pick up after this? Well, if transactions are cheaper, you know, you have all these different layer one blockchains, so-called ETH killers popping up because they're marketing, oh, come here because the fees are way cheaper. But, well, what happens when cheap fees are a commodity? You know, you're going to want to go to where all the liquidity is, and that's Ethereum. Now that we have that said, let's say it comes out on September 19th or 14th or whatever the day is. Is it most likely going to pump or is it most likely going to dump? I think the best way to determine that is to look at what happened when the Bitcoin halving happened, because this is kind of like a halving. So these lines, all the lines that I have on this chart, are all of Bitcoin's halvings, okay? And the Bitcoin halving happens every 210,000 blocks. So that's why it's approximately every 4 years, because that's about how long it takes. But let's look at what happened after each Bitcoin halving. And the Bitcoin halving is supposed to do the same thing that Ethereum 2.0 is going to do. And it made it so that less Bitcoin was being mined, aka coming onto the market, aka less Bitcoin that miners are able to sell. So you would think that once this happens, you know, the price would just skyrocket because like we said, you know, it's supposed to make the asset deflationary, same with Bitcoin. But if you look at this, in 2016, and this is the weekly chart, so each candle represents 1 week. In 2016, we had 4 weeks in the red, so a month in the red. And this happened in July of 2016. We didn't see Bitcoin really start to rally for real until about April of that next year. And then that's what kind of started the 2017 legendary bull rally that everyone talks about. But, you know, a lot of people didn't know about the halving back then. You know, Bitcoin wasn't mainstream. But if we look at May of 2020 now, in May of 2020, people were anticipating the halving. They were waiting on it, including me. It was my first go around when I actually knew what it was. So if we look at this, same thing. Like you would think that leading up to it, people would start buying it. But, you know, Bitcoin was kind of trending downward. And then a few months out, it started to pump. But when the halving actually happened, it dumped off. From May, and it dumped all the way into July, pumped a little bit, dumped. And now October of 2020 comes around, and then it started to pump. So to be honest, I'm assuming that the same thing is probably going to happen with Ethereum, you know? To me, I'm looking at it as a buy the rumor, sell the news kind of event. So let's talk about my strategy. I am right now just dollar cost averaging into ETH, as well as accumulating it through yield farming. And if you want to know how to yield farm, definitely click the link in the description and join our Discord. We're going to be launching a yield farming course. It's going to be the best yield farming course on the market, and believe me, I went through all of them. But you can accumulate through ETH through dollar cost averaging, yield farming, and what I'm going to do once ETH 2.0 is official, I am going to either sell, short, or both. Why? Well, think about it this way. You had a lot of forced selling happen with this recent liquidity crisis from Terra Luna, Three Arrows Capital, Celsius, et cetera, et cetera. So you have a lot of institutions who they're trying to look for exit liquidity pretty much because they've just been getting pummeled because ETH has just been dropping and dropping. It was at 5,000. When I'm recording this video, it's $1,654. So you have these institutions who were buying ETH and now they've been holding it here like throughout this whole dip, right? So now if as ETH starts to go up, they're looking at price targets to get out. Okay, and it's the same thing that happened with the halving. And again, it's like, yeah, it's gonna make Ethereum deflationary, but it has to take time for that to come. Like, it's not like, oh, as soon as this happened, the price is just gonna skyrocket because, you know, so much ETH is not coming onto the market. Like, no, you know, you have to let time go by. So it's like, with that, I would like to conclude this video. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on the bell notification icon because I'm going to be releasing some of the highest quality content on the entire internet. And also, if you want to learn more and become a part of our group and learn these yield farming strategies so you can maximize the crypto that you already have, hit the link in the description and join our Discord and come and fly with us. So with that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.